A couple years ago, I showed you how to make this simple slip dress using 2 rectangles. And I'm going to update that pattern today and show you a little way to make it elevated and put a little spin on the same method. So this is such a simple sewing project. I tried to break it down where it would be perfect for the beginner sewist. This is a relaxed slip-on style with gathers and optional drawstring waist, which makes it a little bit different than the original slip dress, and it has pockets. So let's take it one step at a time. First, choosing the fabric. When you first begin sewing, it's very easy to get a little overwhelmed with fabric choices. So for this dress, I want you to just think of something that's going to be light, airy, breezy, yet easy to sew. So with that, I would stick with a cotton fabric that is made for apparel. So if you're shopping online, you can shop in the apparel section online. Look for fabric that is lightweight, or you can even shop at the thrift store and look through the linen section where there's bed sheets that you can repurpose into a really nice dress. I also always love sewing with linen. This may not be your first choice if this is your first project. A cotton is a little bit easier to sew, but you want something that's going to drape nicely, that when you hold it up and walk, it's going to flow with your body really well. You can find the free pattern piece for this project linked below. It also comes along with an easy sewing guide to walk you through measurements and all of those things. So print out the free armhole pattern in your size. Just make sure when you're printing, you select actual size so that it prints at the correct size. And then you can measure 1 inch square to make sure it printed correctly. This is a small pattern piece because you're really just wanting to create a curve to the rectangles. Next, you want to cut out your fabric pieces. Using a ruler or measuring tape, cut the following pieces from your fabric. These are all rectangles, and you can pause the video and screenshot this for easy reference or download the pattern below. Something I like to do when I am cutting a large piece of fabric and using only straight lines, and I'm using a cotton fabric, is to just snip the edge and tear down the fabric. This is going to follow that grain line and make a perfect cut where you don't have to measure it out perfectly. Before you start sewing, it's really helpful to go ahead and do some ironing to get the following pieces prepared for sewing. You're going to prepare your straps, the drawstring channel, drawstring, and the chest plackets. For each of these pieces, you're going to fold them in half lengthwise, then fold each long edge in towards the center crease and press again. This gives you a neat enclosed edge for easy stitching later on. I do want to note for the drawstring channel in this video looks pretty narrow. After I filmed this, I changed it a little bit and made it longer, which is reflected in the measurements that I shared earlier. So the first sewing step is to add the drawstring channel. Take your front bodice piece and make sure that you've marked the center of it by clipping a little notch in the top center while it is folded in half. Measure 8 inches down from the top edge and pin your drawstring channel centered across the width. Make sure the sides are folded in 1/4 of an inch and sew this down along the top and bottom edges, leaving the sides open. Now we're going to gather the top of the bodice pieces. Set your sewing machine to its longest stitch length and highest tension. Sew a line 1/4 of an inch away from the top edge of the front and back bodice pieces. Gently pull the threads to gather the fabric until it matches the width of your placket pieces. Now with the right sides together, pin and sew a placket piece to the gathered top each bodice panel using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Hold the placket up and over to the wrong side of the bodice to hide the raw edge. Press it flat, then fold the bottom raw edge of the placket under to tuck it in. Now, using pins, start from the right side, right where that seam is, and put the pin in towards the back to make sure it's catching the back placket piece, and then pin in place. Repeat this all across the placket to make sure that when you sew, you're going to catch the back as you're sewing in the ditch. Next, you're going to add the pockets. From the top of the armpit, you're going to measure 9 inches down along the side seam and make a little mark with a pin or a chalk. Pin one pocket piece to the right side of the fabric at each mark, front and back. Sew each pocket to the bodice at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Finish this with a serger or a zigzag stitch and press the seam toward the pocket, and then top stitch along the pocket to anchor it flat. With the right sides together, line up the front and back pieces, making sure the armholes, plackets, pockets, and hem match. Sew each side seam at a 1/2 inch seam allowance, going around the pocket slowly. And finish the raw edges with a serger or zigzag stitch. Now take your bias cup straps that you pressed earlier and starting at the underarm seam, pin the bias strap right sides together around the armhole. Continue pinning all the way around to the other end where they match. Have these ends overlap by 1/2 inch, and at this point you want to use a lot of pins, and it is helpful to try it on to make sure that your strap isn't too low or too high. You want it sitting comfortably on your body. So at 1/2 inch seam allowance around the armhole. And then fold the bias tape towards the inside, and doing the same thing you did earlier for the placket pieces, pin from the outside to the inside to make sure you are getting that fabric on the other side for a clean finish. Now stitch it down to enclose the raw edge. So all the way around the strap, making sure you're going right along the edge of the strap. Repeat this for the other strap. And lastly, add the drawstring. So take the drawstring strap that you previously pressed and sew right along the edge to make sure that those raw edges are enclosed. This created your drawstring. Now attach a safety pin and thread it through the drawstring channel that you made earlier. To finish, you can just tie a little knot on the end. If you wanted to, you could put 2 drawstrings through this channel and then make a bow. This is where you can get really creative with your own sewing project. Now hem the dress by folding the bottom edge up a 1/2 inch towards the wrong side and press. Fold again 1 inch and press. Now stitch close to the top fold to create a clean hem. It was a fun sew, and it's even more fun to wear. I would love to see what you create. If you want to see the original slip dress, then click this next video.